seconds to go. But by the time I warm up...
Is that the route we're going to take for the budget?
Sounds like a test goes on.
Okay, members, if I start with the webcasting, if I can start with the webcasting announcement, I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of subsequent repeated viewing, with copies of the recording being made available for those that request it. By being present at this meeting, it is likely that the recording cameras will capture your image and this will result in your image becoming part of the broadcast. You should be aware that this may infringe your human and data protection rights. If you have any concerns, then please speak to the webcasting officer. Members, I shouldn't have to remind you, but if I do need to, please turn your microphones on when you're speaking and off when you finish. Members, declarations of interest. None? Okay, thank you. Minutes of the last meeting, can I take those as being accurate? Thank you. I understand I'm going to be docu-signing them later, so we've taken another leap forward with our technology. Reports of portfolio holders. Before we get going this evening, obviously yesterday was the Ride London event in Epping and through Ongar, and I just want to thank our officers who did the most terrific job for Epping Forest. They got here at 5 o'clock in the morning to set up. The green in Epping was absolutely terrific, with a great response from the community, and I've had lots of thanks to what our officers have done. So there's a large number of them to thank, but of course Jill Wallace is the lead on community wellbeing, and certainly I'm sure we'll be passing on our thanks fully in the coming days, but they were absolutely first class, as you would expect from Epping Forest officers, but really big thank you to them. They made a successful day even more successful. Okay, any reports from other... Apologies. Okay, I'll do that in a minute. Any reports from other Cabinet members? Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to let members know that for the last little bit and going forward, we're actually sharing our Section 151 officer and the Deputy Section 151 officer with Colchester. There are a number of good reasons for this, apart from sharing services being a good idea as it is. The key parts are becoming, as no surprise, I guess, increasingly difficult to get good finance officers. We're lucky we've got two really good finance officers sitting at the top of our pile, so it makes sense to share that experience around. And also sharing it helps us to increase our resilience in the finance sector, and same for Colchester. We actually use many of the same processes and same systems as they do in Colchester. Therefore, if we've got two different teams working and sharing information, it's actually going to mean that we can pass best practice around from one to the other and actually learn from each other. We're also working with Braintree to do look at more opportunities for joint working. The other thing to note is that this is actually an interim arrangement at the moment, so we'll see how it works and take it from there. And just to reassure people, although I suspect they shouldn't need reassurance since I am the finance portfolio holder, we are actually sharing the cost on the basis of the time spent on each of those roles. So it's a win-win for us, and it's a win-win for Colchester. And I'd just like to congratulate Andrew and Chris on getting those positions and being able to take our knowledge there and hopefully bring Colchester's knowledge back.
Good. Thank you very much, Councillor Phillip. Indeed, shared services are high on the agenda, and I know at the next full council meeting I'll be reporting on a meeting today with the North Essex council leaders where we talked very much about shared services and what we might do in the future. So we'll be back in touch, hopefully with actually a report to scrutiny shortly, or one of the select panels to discuss the potential for shared services at a district level, but also the what's becoming a quicker move now to devolution at the Greater Essex level, which isn't within our grasp to give or whatever, but there are potential benefits to it that will come to us as a district. Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and just a very short update from me. It's weird having a microphone in this room, isn't it? Just to note that the Nine Fields playground was opened. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend as I was seeing Bruce Springsteen in Rome on that day, but I understand Councillor Kane was there and a number of the Waltham Abbey councillors. It was a really fantastic initiative as part of the Safer Streets scheme. I understand there was quite a few hundred people in attendance, actually, a lot of local children. and it's a really brilliant new community facility on the Ninefields estate. So I just wanted to welcome that and the hard work of the officer team who are working on the safer streets, as well as the community engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did I see Councillor Patel wish... Now, first of all, actually, before we go any further this evening, welcome to our two new members of the Cabinet, Councillor Balcom and Councillor Patel. Thank you and welcome on board. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Chairman. So today I've had my very first visit within the community as part of my portfolio, which I was really excited about. I went to Waltham Abbey for a visit for one of the primary schools where we do the after-school send provisions as well, and saw them, carrying out activities on ground, and it was amazing. I met the volunteers and the program heads that were there delivering the service. It was amazing work that they do. I was really amazed of how much, and also the success of what Epping Forest does, which has now been able to transcribe to getting the West Essex group together for that, and then we provide that service to Harlow and Uttlesford as well, which is amazing to know. The other one is just asking everyone to go and visit the tiger who came into tea exhibition at the Epping Forest Museum, which was fantastic. So yeah, I was able to take my daughter along, so we've got our having tea photos today. So yeah, if anyone wants interested in doing that, and it was amazing. So yeah, I look forward to more of those events. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's very good. Okay, I've got to skip back one part of the agenda. That's the apologies for absence, which I believe there are none this evening.
No, only Councillor Wixley, because he's the new chair of OSC.
Yeah, of course. Okay, that's fine. Okay, public questions and requests to address the Cabinet? None?
No.
Okay, thank you. Report of overview and scrutiny. Of course, there is no report of overview and scrutiny yet because it's just been reformulated, and Councillor Wixley is now the chairman of that committee, so I should imagine he's looking forward to coming to our next meeting. Item 8, launch of the new people strategy. Councillor Sam Kane.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this is the new people strategy, which I'm bringing to Cabinet this evening. It's a revision to incorporate the new revised corporate plan objectives. Bit of a redraft. It's all about attracting the best people to come and work here at EFDC and keeping the best of those that we get. So I would ask Cabinet colleagues to agree the new people strategy.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions? Councillor John Phillip.
Chairman, I think when we've talked about things like this before, we've suggested that we come back in perhaps 12 months' time to see how the strategy is working and get a report on what's going on. I think it would be very useful if we did that again for this one.
Thank you, Councillor Sam Kane.
Well, yes, indeed. Indeed, one of the primary thoughts of the scrutiny panel when they looked at this was how we're going to measure success and how we're going to measure through the year. So yes, indeed, we'll bring back a report at the end of the year.
Thank you. Councillor Kane, I wonder if it might be worth adding that to something that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee might like to have a look at on the annual basis as well. It spreads it around the council a bit more.
Absolutely. I'm sure Paul McGuinness has taken a note of that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from members? No? Okay, can we agree to recommendations on that one? Thank you very much. Then we move on to item 9, the asbestos policy. Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. And before I start, may I welcome Sergit, who's the new Director of Housing and Property. So welcome, and he'll be here for any technical advice on what is a very technical report today. So today I'm bringing forward the asbestos policy, which is very important, always important, because it is asbestos can be something on older properties that causes risk, particularly to builders, but also to tenants. And this is about making sure that we have a record and assessment of asbestos or potential asbestos in our council estate properties, particularly relevant now in terms of the new responsibilities under the social housing regulator. This is to make sure it's all recorded in the correct way and checked up to date. You'll see that we have procured the services of Pennington Choices, who are an expert for social housing landlords. I trust members have read the detail of this policy, and it goes into quite a lot of detail. What I am going to ask Sergit to do, if that's okay, is just to clarify for members of the Cabinet and Council this evening, just around the roles and responsibilities, particularly of the Cabinet, and how this has changed in light of the new social housing regulations. So I think it would be helpful for members to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Sergio.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chair. And warm welcome to everybody here. So, yes, so certainly what the policy will sort of set out really are the three key areas where there'll be senior responsibility for asbestos. So our new Chief Operating Officer, that's Jennifer Gould, who many of you will already know, will hold the actual sort of accountability around being the responsible person within the organisation for overseeing asbestos. Then there's myself, along with a key service manager who holds I don't hold personally the asbestos qualification, but one of our surveyors holds the asbestos qualification. And what we will also ensure going forward, when we have any key management roles and any key managers involved in overseeing asbestos, they are suitably qualified also to make sure that we are wholly compliant. And as Councillor Whitbread has just pointed out, there is a greater emphasis around the qualification levels and having greater scrutiny around that. And that's probably all I'll say on the qualifications. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you. That's helpful. And just to highlight as well, just the oversight and the scrutiny of the policy, both by Cabinet and Council more widely through scrutiny. And to know it has already been to the tenants and residents panel. I understand it will be going to scrutiny. Do we have a date for scrutiny? Do you know?
I don't have a date for scrutiny. I can certainly confirm that in the return.
Sorry, just need to switch your...
Just to note that should be going to the, I'm guessing, the Community Select Committee at the next full meeting.
Super. Thank you. Members, any questions? Councillor Sam Kane.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The recommendations are to adopt this policy, yet there are resource implications instigating or commissioning a survey of the communal areas. Presumably that's part of the recommendations as well.
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
That's a good point, Councillor Kane, and I would suggest it's put in the recommendations. And just to note for Councillor Phillips' information, that will be funded through the Housing Revenue account.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Phillips.
Just following up on that one, I mean, I see in 7 that it's 65,000, so I assume that's in the budget for the HRA, but the bigger question is, given the level of work that needs to be done on this and the regular reporting back, whether there are any significant ongoing costs as a result of doing this.
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you. My understanding is this has been taken into account in terms of the work around the new social housing regulations, although I will just pass to Sergio just to clarify around that point. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any, excuse me, any remedial works that come out as a result of the surveys, we will certainly cost those, and I'll be happy to sort of advise Cabinet of those. But at the moment, these are surveys that have already been carried out. It's just having to redo those with an appropriately qualified surveyor. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of points. I've read this report very carefully. Don't pretend to understand all of it because it's not my area of expertise, but I'm more than happy with it. The other issue, and I asked the question as carefully as I can. Can the portfolio holder assure us that she will be reporting to members as soon as possible around the other issue to do with asbestos?
And I'll confirm that will be the case.
Okay, members, you've got the recommendations before you with the additional one in regards to the financing coming from the HRA. Can we take that as being agreed?
Agreed.
Item 10 is the Qualis quarterly monitoring. Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. As happens every quarter, we bring a report from Qualis in terms of the performance in the last quarter. This is quarter 2 of the year 4. Members will notice that there is a significant change in the style of reporting from Qualis. I think people will hopefully recognise that it's much more detailed and actually much more informative in the way that it's laid out. And as such, very happily, it reduces the burden on Mr. Small to write a more significant covering report. I know I've been saying this for a while, but that doesn't make it any less true. Conditions have changed significantly over the last 18 months in terms of how the market is going, how things like development funding is going, not least interest rates having gone up significantly over the last 18 months. All of this has had an impact on Qualis, which as a primarily property company is in the middle of this storm. The good thing is they are still making a significant contribution towards our continuing service budget. Called out in 1.5, we can actually see they've paid in almost 2 million interest into our budget, which makes a significant contribution to where we are. The other positive things are that there is significant progress in what's happening. They have changed the way, we've changed to the correct way of reporting in terms of work in progress, etc. Overall, there is a loss for the quarter of about £350,000, which is over the forecast of 200,000. However, that actually is a significant improvement on where we were quarter one. I hope this is us moving in the right direction. I'm happy to take questions on this. Or if this goes down into detail, maybe Mr. Small might need to help me out on that.
Okay, thank you. Members, everyone's had the opportunity to read the report. It is much clearer, I have to say. It's really well worded and welcomed. And of course, I think Councillor Phillip drawing attention of all members to the substantial contribution that Qualis makes to our finances is important. And of course, we are going through probably one of the most difficult economic periods we've known for many years. Any other members? Questions? Councillor Brooks.
Do you want to press this?
You do.
Yes. Thanks very, very much. Yes, I have read the report. I know that we can't predict, the next 12 months. And the last, I think I was here when we discussed the losses at the last cabinet meeting. But basically, if things continue as they are, in the next report, let's say in a year's time, and that's actually a long way to look ahead, without anything unexpected happening in the, I shall refer to it last October, do you think we're going to see an upturn?
Councillor Phillip, with your crystal ball.
Well, at the risk of Councillor Brooks having scuppered the chances of a smooth ride over the next year by that reckless comment of nothing untoward happening, absolutely. A couple of reasons for that, Councillor Brooks. Firstly, when it comes to September, Qualis will be bringing forward a one-year business plan and an updated 4-year business plan, which will factor into those plans what the current situation is. Without a good crystal ball, I have to, for those people who've been around here for long enough, will remember even Bob Palmer's crystal ball wasn't always completely accurate. There are signs of things making improvement. I do, as you know, meet on a weekly basis with the Managing Director of Qualis. We are looking at moving things like the St John's Road development forward somewhat more quickly than we had thought we might when the problems were as big as in the property department as they might have been. So I fully expect two things to have happened by 12 months' time, assuming the lights don't go out all over Europe. Two things will have happened. We will actually see advances in things being completed and started by Qualis. So I fully expect the car park in Epping to be complete and opened and operating. That'll be a good sign. We will see more progress on the Condor site. Hopefully we'll see things starting to move in the St John's Road site. So all of that is very positive things. So yes, I would expect that to be going in the right direction. We will still see significant contributions to the council's budget through the work the Qualis is doing, the loans that they're drawing down. The next report actually says some other stuff about what Qualis is likely to be doing, working in their particular area of expertise. This is all things that we can start to work on that will actually make things, hopefully, improve even more as we go forward and make a significant contribution to where we're going. So it's, I'm not going to say it's all rosy, but I don't think it's as nearly as dark as it might have been if we hadn't been starting to see some changes at this point.
Councillor Brooks.
It's a bit unfortunate when we started this, the climate was rather different. And the fact that the value of commercial property has dropped so drastically, and also we've got the problem of inflation and interest rates still on the climb by the looks of it, really. But I know we're in this for the long game, as it were. It's just when you explain to people on the doorstep, as I'm sure you've had a lot more experience recently, you know, what exactly is the council doing? And I try to explain, you know, that the way the funding streams are different from 10 years ago. You know, we have to make more money of our own, and everyone's trying to do this, every council in the country, virtually. Yes, so fingers crossed. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Phillip.
I think there's a number of things, Councillor Brooks, I want to pull out on that. Firstly, yes, there is a financial aspect to it, without a doubt. It makes a significant contribution to what we're doing. Commercial property, interesting you should say that, because you'll have heard me say before that over the last year, Qualis actually managed to wring an extra $500,000 of rent out of our property portfolio. So that's definitely moving in the right direction. I fully expect to see changes there in the right direction going forward as well. Our rent collection, the backlog of debt is reducing month on month. We have a meeting where we look at things like that, and that does come down. So we're going to see improvements there. The other thing to look at is the other reason why we have Qualis in there. Well, two other reasons we have Qualis in there. One, it's to have a company working really closely with the council in terms of areas like housing maintenance and ground maintenance, where we have significant levers over what's going on to aim to drive that service in the right direction. The other part is to look, and this is actually also called out later on in the agenda. We used to, as a council, I'll call it many years ago now, not have a good look at what we were actually doing with our commercial portfolio. And we would sell off long-term leases, frankly, for not great value for us. That stops us as a council actually being able to regenerate different areas within the district. And one of the things we are doing with Qualis is actually looking at places across the district, not just in Epping, not just in Waltham Abbey, but looking at Loughton and Buckhurst Hill and other places as well. And looking at that from a point of view of can we get things together so we can actually do a proper regeneration aspect. And that's the other part. That's unfortunately one of those really intangible things that is, you're quite right, very difficult to explain to people on the doorstep, particularly if it's people in an area that's not actually being regenerated at that point. But this is a big district. There's a lot of places in the district. There's no way that we can afford to regenerate everywhere in one go. So we're working through it. And as we bring things forward, you will see regeneration. And as that's done, we'll be able to point that to people to that and say, look, that's something that we've done. That's how we've made that place better than it was 10 years ago. And if we can keep doing that through Qualis, that surely has to be a win-win for everybody.
Okay, members, can we agree to report? Thank you. We then move on to item 11, which is the next stage of development of North Weald allocated employment land. Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. As members will remember, I brought forward a proposal to sell part of our commercial land to somebody as aligned with a master plan. That is very much in the B8 area of development. That's what it's classified in the master plan as. Now that has significant potential benefits for the council, but being B8, it doesn't have a very high percentage of people working in there. In the North Wales Master Plan, the other half of the area allocated for employment land is allocated for other employment uses. We don't, within the council, have people with expertise on how you set that up, how you do that to maximise the revenue for the council, maximise the jobs that will be created through it, look at all the things like transport, etc., that need to be done. North Wales Airfield is a great asset for the council. We do not want to get rid of that completely. We want to be able to still be in a position to control that. Again, as I mentioned in the last report, we haven't always made the best decisions in terms of our leases on North Wales Airfield, and there is quite a lot of stuff, I'll call it, hanging around at the moment. What this report is asking for is the ability to use the expertise that we know is in Qualis, and we've, as I said earlier, we know it's there because we've seen the impact they've had on our rent roll in terms of doing things in a proper commercial way as opposed to the way we were doing it before. But to capitalise on their experience and take the situation at North Wales Airfield forward from where it is at the moment with the adopted master plan to a place where we can actually decide what we're going to do with North Wales Airfield so that we can make the best benefit for the district, whether that be in terms of jobs, whether that be in terms of revenue coming into the district, whether that be for North Wales itself in terms of making sure that what we have there is actually an asset to the district. North Wales, if it is a real asset, we want to make sure that what we do makes it even better and doesn't spoil it. So we're looking here to allocate money to fund that work. That work would have to be done by somebody external to the council anyway. We have the experience and expertise sitting in Qualis. It makes sense for us to use them to do this work. This is not them being assigned as primary developer or anything. We will be coming back with a report once all this work is done to recommend to Cabinet and to Council exactly what it is that we should do with the airfield going forward to line up with the master plan and to make sure that we protect what we have for the district. Chairman, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Phillip. Members? No? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a few questions. For just one question and then maybe a comment. It says to recommend £500,000 to fund this work. That's not the work of the proposals, is it? That's the work after the proposals come. Have I understood that?
Councillor Phillip.
The 500,000 is the work that needs to be done to make sure that when we bring forward a proposal, it has the full capability to be implemented in terms of whatever we aim to take forward. This is not 500,000 to do the proposal. If we look at something that size and we look at the potential rent that it might be bringing in, I'm not going to say that rent in public, but the annual rent coming in from it would make the 500,000 look money well spent. If you think about what you look at in terms of a property development, you're looking at ideally 15% margin on it. It's a lot more than that. And if we're going to do the things we think we might have to do, we will probably have to spend more money. This will be a capital expenditure, not an ongoing continuing service budget expenditure. But having sat down with Qualis and with the finance department here, I feel that figure is a very good deal for the council at this stage. I don't think we'd find it any cheaper anywhere else.
And then
Councillor
my other issue, which is the one I'm more concerned about, but I may have misunderstood it, so please put my mind at rest. We're told that one of the benefits of Qualis is that they bring the private sector expertise and the private sector rigour to things. So it's essentially a private sector company with Epping Forest District Council as the only shareholder. I think that's accurate. So why haven't we gone through any kind of tender process for this? Why do we directly commission one company without finding out whether whatever they're going to charge us for doing it is competitive? Qualis is a relatively new company, and we may well have been impressed by what they've done. I'm probably not in that gang, but let's just take it at face value that we can be impressed by what they've already done. Presumably, there are a lot of private sector companies out there that have years of history of doing this kind of process. So I'm just struggling to understand why we haven't followed normal kind of tendering process for this kind of project, and we've gone automatically to Qualis. It just seems a bit cosy to me, but I may have misunderstood everything, of course.
Councillor Phillip.
Councillor Murray, I'm disappointed that you're not in the camp that thinks Qualis is wonderful, and I'm gobsmacked that you should say that. It came as a real surprise to me, I'm sure. There's a number of reasons, Councillor Murray, why we've taken this route. There's a fallacy that going through a tender process is something that doesn't cost a significant amount of money. To have a tender process and doing something like this, you'd be looking not just at a cost point of view, but a quality point of view. For us to be able to generate a tender like that and then to evaluate that tender with great detail would be costing us a significant proportion of this 500,000 in the first instance. And to do that, we'd have to get a company in to decide what the tender is going to be. If one of the people who would tender, and I rather suspect it would be Qualis, then we would have to find another private company to do that. The other part is that a tender like this would not run particularly quickly. And one of the things I want to do is take advantage of where we are in the economic cycle so that when things do start to come back up, we are in a position as a district to capitalise on it by having a good plan in place, ready to go with the development side of things. So essentially it's a cost-benefit analysis, Councillor Murray, and my call was that on this one we had experts closely aligned with us, owned by ourselves, and that was a sensible decision for us to make.
Just one final comment, Chairman. I'm not a member of any industry lobby group, quite the reverse, but I think you can see that there will be companies out there that aren't happy with this kind of process being adopted because they will feel as if they've got services and expertise that they could have offered, but you know that's just the way it is.
Councillor Murray, yes, I understand that. However, because of the special agreement arrangement between ourselves and Qualis, as you pointed out, it is something that we are actually able to do. And I don't want you to get the idea that this will always be my answer to things like this, that it goes to Qualis. I will be looking on that, as I do with all of them, on a case-by-case basis. I just made the decision. We have potentially progress on one half of this development site in North Weald. I want to start making progress as quickly as possible on the other one. And if my colleagues don't agree with me, then we can go and do something else. But I would strongly urge them to, because I think it is the right thing to do.
Okay. Members, you've all had ample opportunity to go through this report. We've discussed it previously. Can we agree the recommendations contained in? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item 12 is any other business. Again, Councillor Phillip on the report for the Q4 budget monitoring.
Yes, thank you. And that's on the supplement for members. I'll apologise up front that this came out as a late report, but if you think about when our year end was, the amount of work that's had to go in to get to a point where we're confident that we have an outturn that we can report to Cabinet has been significant. And at this point, I would just like to thank Mr. Hargrave and his team for the work that's been done on this. It's very easy to have a title that says Q4 Budget Monitoring Report, but then when you look at the recommendations, you're looking not just at revenue, not just at the general fund, but the HRA and capital for both of them. So there is a significant change in there, a sufficient amount of work. We're also noticing the earmark reserves moving around. Chairman, I think it's easiest to take this at a high level. I'm hoping that members have had a chance to read through all the details. I do have Mr. Hargrove here if you've got any detailed questions, because although I have been through this report a number of times, the details I think are still at a level that Mr. Hargrove will probably have more information than I have. Areas just to call out very quickly, and this is on page 6 and 7 of the supplementary, areas where there are overspends or under incomes, if you like. We've already talked about Qualis. We've already talked about the environment out there. The delay in finalising the local plan did have a significant impact on what we expected to be able to do, both in terms of the development Qualis was looking at, but also in terms of the development that we were expecting in the district as a result. And you can actually see that hitting both the Qualis income, but also the planning and development budgets. We have an overspend in the customer services. That's one of those really lovely technical ones, which if you want a 5-minute explanation, I'm sure Mr. Hargrove would be willing to give it to you. You might want to record it and play it if you're having difficulty going to sleep. Finance and audit, again, I don't like always saying this, but it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that after the year we've had to make more provision for bad debt. It's just the way it is. It would be rash of us not to. Financing and overspend because the interest rates have had an impact. HRA recharges, again, an overspend. But there are some positives. An underspend on our corporate services, mostly due to the ICT underspend. Community and well-being, we have an underspend because of missing homeless officer posts, but also in terms of the promotion of the service director to interim service strategic director, and then on to our chief operating officer. Housing and property, we've got an underspend in terms of both the facilities and depot management. And also one in commercial and technical. Now this one may be one that might surprise people, but we have had a larger income from recycling than we were expecting because the prices there have gone up. I will draw attention to two other things which are in section 2.4, our staffing budgets. Our staffing budget was set for last year on the basis of a 2% rise. We ended up on an average of a 5% rise across the council. That has a significant impact on our budget. As members will remain, I always point out that the biggest cost to this council is our staff budget. And again, who's surprised? Energy costs have gone up. I think those are the ones I want to call out in terms of the general fund budget. The section on page 10 in terms of our reserves is worth reading. It has an impact. Our general fund balance is 3.2 million, which is below the 4 million that we wanted to be at, but it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone because I've been flagging that up for the last 2 quarters at least. And the really good news is that the reserves here at that point are almost exactly what I said they would be a quarter ago. Housing revenue account starts on page 12. Again, significant change variations in section 4.3. The capital programme is covered in on page 14 and 15. Underspends on Qualis, which I've highlighted before. Underspends on the leisure centre, because clearly we can't start the leisure centre until the car park's completed. ICT and corporate services. And then on page 16, you have the HRA capital programme, where you can see a significant underspend driven by house building, Qualis acquisitions, and acquisition for land building. All the details are in appendixes A, B, and C at the end of the report. I'm quite happy to take questions, or, as may well be the case, if they're too detailed, pass them over to Mr. Hargrove.
Thank you very much, Councillor Phillip, and thank you to the officers for, again, a really good report in detail. Any questions? Councillor Sam Kane.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to make a comment, really, referring back to earlier discussions on a previous item. The residents' council tax revenue stream represents 8.6 million. Qualis's income stream represents very nearly 1.8 million. Qualis makes a huge difference to our residents when it comes to how much council tax they're paying.
Absolutely. Councillor Phillip.
Chairman, I completely agree. I think all of us would like to keep the income coming from our residents' council tax as near as possible to where it is at the moment. We didn't go to the maximum for this coming year, which is a really good thing, and we're doing everything we can to try and drive the contribution from Qualis up.
Thank you. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, a couple of things, please. When I read this, and I don't know whether it will be the officer or the portfolio holder, because it's not really to do with finance, but it's... Sorry, a couple of things on this. I don't know whether this is a question for the portfolio holder or the relevant housing officer who's here tonight, because it's the impact of these figures that I read on page 7, community and well-being, and there was an underspend, and I understand in terms of finance that was a good thing, and I do understand that, and these are our turn figures, but as soon as I read that, whenever this was circulated, I was just concerned about the impact on the homelessness service, that we had a combination of 2 posts not filled for the first 9 months, so and we were told that there was pressure under that service, so I just wanted to hear from the appropriate person that you don't feel that that underspend significantly impacted the delivery of that essential service.
Councillor Hollywood-Bread.
Thank you, Councillor Murray, for that question, and I believe that the posts are now filled, although I will pass to Sergeant just to confirm that is the case. You are correct that there has been significant pressure on the service, but that's largely been around actually finding appropriate accommodation, and from my end, it's my understanding that there hasn't been too much extra pressure as a result of that, but I will pass on to officers for confirmation. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Phillip.
The other thing to say, Councillor Murray, is that those posts were not left unfilled because we wanted to save money. They were left unfilled because we couldn't find the right people to fill them. I like an underspend, but if we had found it wasn't that we weren't recruiting, we were recruiting, we just didn't get the right people.
And one other area I wanted to bring members' attention.
Sorry, Councillor Murray. Oh. Serge was going to come back first of all.
Sorry, so in terms of the posts, I'm not able to sort of confirm, and if those posts have been filled, I can certainly sort of investigate that, being a few weeks in. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, it's probably unfair me fielding all these questions. The Sergeant's only been here for a week or so, but I'll get clarification on that and send it back on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray.
So apologies for that. It's obviously difficult to read the meeting when we're lined up like this. Page 13, repairs and maintenance, HRA. Can I just ask where we are on the report we are all waiting for around this issue arising from a letter in December and the ONS meeting at the end of January, because it is now the end of May, so I did wonder where we were on that important investigation, please, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. I'll ask the Chief Exec to make a comment.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Murray. So the update is that we are still waiting for the final report to come in that will conclude that investigation.
Thank you. Okay, no other questions. Members, can we agree that report? Thank you very much. Item 13 is the exclusion of public and press. I'll read... Sorry, Councillor Phillip.
If I might suggest that we actually take the majority of the next item in public, and if we need to go into the details of the finance, at that point we should go into private session. I think the majority of things can be done without any reference to figures.
Thank you, Councillor Phillip. Obviously, it's better if we can do these things in a public forum, but we will have to go into private session if at any time figures start to be mentioned. So we'll start on item 14, acquisition of leasehold interest of council-owned commercial property and disposal at Cartersfield Road. If I think we're drifting into private territory or commercially sensitive territory, I will raise that issue immediately. Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. Members will have seen the report, and I alluded to part of the reason why we're doing this earlier, in that we have previously sold off pieces of land under leasehold, which have stymied our approach to be able to do regeneration. Called out in the report, there are a number of areas where we would have we would like to have the ability to look at regeneration. We have opportunities to acquire a set of long leasehold interests in a number of properties that we had before. We've looked at the finance of them. The figures that are contained within the report show us a significantly good reason why we should do this. The other part of this is previously we resolved to sell property to Qualis for redevelopment at a particular price point. We haven't completed that sale yet. Market situation has changed significantly. We're showing where we are in the report in terms of calling out exactly what that price should be to Qualis, which is different from what it is before, but it still makes significant sense to do that. So essentially this report is in two parts. One is to bring those leasehold interests back into the council, and the other part is to sell the identified properties to Qualis at that figure so that we can actually achieve it. The implications if we go ahead with this is that we will have to go to full council to vary our capital programme to allow us to do the right thing for the district. I'm happy to take questions, but if people have questions, if we can try and keep them as non-private as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Chairman. I just need your guidance, please. I may have prejudicial interest in this as a trustee in Waltham Abbey Youth 2000, who their address is 154 to 155 Brooker Road. I did ask this previously, whether the 155 Brooker Road listed here has any bearing on Youth 2000's premises.
It's probably better to declare and walk while we're getting that information. So I would suggest a pecuniary interest until...
In which case I will retire.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Members, any other comments, any questions? I think it's actually covered mainly in the earlier reports as well as the need to do this, and it will be coming to full council on the 20th of June, I believe. Therefore, can I agree the recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you. And with that, we close the meeting for this evening. Thank you very much.